What's going on YouTube? Bacon here bringing you another video. This one gonna be my week 7 battle for the VPL. This week we're taking on Dozer Dave, coach of the Pittsburgh Pyukumuku. Apologies for a little bit of delay in getting this one up. Unfortunately, I was sick around the time of playing this game, a couple days following that, so I didn't really feel like recording, and then I was gone for the weekend. I was looking for apartments, so I've been kind of busy lately, but hopefully I can catch up a little bit. I am 2 games behind on VPL and 2 games behind on OLT, so hopefully I can get caught up as soon as possible and get those out for you guys. Not going to rush them or anything, but when I have time to record, I should probably be doing so. Yeah. Let's get right into the match here. So Dave's coming into this match at 4-2. I'm coming in at 6-0. If I win this game, I do clinch a playoff spot, so something to keep in mind there. Dave and I have played twice in the VPL and games that count. Dave beat me in Season 2. He was running Coco Lucha, and my team was just not well prepped for it. That was the game where we learned to never ever do back-to-backs, because I played on a Sunday night, and then I played on a Monday night following that, so never ever doing that again. But then in Season 3 we came back and I had Coco and I actually had Hitmonlee paired with it, and I was able to Electric Seed Unburden Sweep Dave in return. So coming full circle here, we're at a kind of rubber match between the two of us, both coming in at 1-1 versus each other in this game. And yeah, let's get right into the matchup here. So Dave's team consists of the Celesteela, Goodra, Lycanroc Dusk, Shaman, Mesprit, Zangoose, Mega Heracross, Tapu Fini, Rotom Heat, Cofagrigus, and Rhyperior. His Z users are the Celesteela, Goodra, and Shaman. So a couple things off the bat, I'm really glad the Lycanroc is not one of his Z users, because SDZ Lycanroc is a very scary set versus me. But I do expect to see the Lycanroc in general. Definitely expect to see the Celesteela as well. Basically, not a whole lot he can bring besides what he ended up bringing. You'll see on the other side of the screen there. Maybe he could have tried bringing something like Rhyperior if he really wanted to, but I don't think it has as good a matchup versus me as the Lycanroc does, and you don't necessarily want to be stacking rock types versus me in general, because I do have the Mega Aggron, I do have the Vaporeon, things like that. So I felt like Lycanroc is more likely bring of the two, and it is what ended up showing. So a couple big threats on his team. The Mega Heracross is very difficult for me to switch into in general. Rotom Heat is actually a big problem for my team as well, just because it has a great matchup against Vaporeon, of course, because it is an electric type still. And I just don't have like a good rock type to pivot in on that thing, because Mega Aggron is going to convert to a steel type when it Mega Evolves. So difficult Pokemon for me to deal with, and we'll get into the team builder here in a second, and hopefully pick up a W in this one. So looking at this team, I've got Bird Brain the Tornadus here, running Focus Sash Lead Tornadus with U-Turn, Defog, Air Slash, and Knockoff. This basically just allows me to do whatever I want turn 1. If he's like a lead or Lycanroc set, I can just U-Turn out on that thing, not worry about if he's like Focus Sash, Endeavor, or whatever. Choice Band, Choice Scarf, don't care. I can just U-Turn out on that thing all day and get into something like my Vaporeon, for instance, or maybe my Mega Aggron. So that's the idea from Tornadus. It's basically a pretty good anti-lead option versus him. If he leads with Rotom, I can immediately knock that thing off. I can knock off Tapu Fini, potentially knock off Celesteela. So knockoff is just really nice in this game to remove whatever items he's running. And obviously I threaten out something like the Mega Heracross. Running max HP, pretty close to max speed on this Tornadus. It's more of like a bulky pivot type mon. If I'm predicting the Heracross to go for a close combat or a pin missile or something like that, I can get into my Tornadus. Rock Blast in general is kind of scary versus me, especially because my Rock Resist is the Mega Aggron, which obviously does not appreciate a close combat very much. So definitely going to be difficult pivoting around the Mega Heracross. I'm going to have to catch when I think he's going for fighting type moves, and hopefully get my Tornadus in on those. Next up here is a pretty standard Vaporeon set, running Scald, Haze, Wish, and Protect. Leftovers, of course, with max HP and max Phys-Def. Max Phys-Def is going to allow me to take on the Celesteela better if he's running like an offensive variant, which I kind of am expecting this week. Allows me to take hits better from the Lycanroc, take hits better from the Mega Heracross. You get the idea. Running Haze this week in case he runs Calm Mind Tapu Fini. So got a couple options with the Tapu Fini. If he's running Calm Mind, he needs, I think, Moonblast and Ice Beam. Which means he's either not running Taunt or he's not running a Water type move. If he's not running a Water type move, my Mega Aggron can deal with it, and if he's not running Taunt, then I can just haze it with my Vaporeon here and not care. So that was kind of the idea coming in with the Vaporeon. Just max Phys-Def is good enough to check the Tapu Fini anyways, and I should be able to whittle that thing down because it doesn't get access to any recovery. If I am able to knock it off with my Tornadus, get rid of Leftovers, for example, it should be good for my Vaporeon going forward. Next up here is the main Tapu Fini response, which is my Roserade. Running Black Sludge Roserade with Sludge Bomb, Giga Drain, HP Flying, and Leech Seed. Leech Seed's just really nice to spread across his team. Things like Celesteela switching in are going to get whittled down by Leech Seed and gives me a free switch into my Vaporeon. He really can't touch Vaporeon. Even if he's running like Z-Grass, it shouldn't really do more than like 60% to Vaporeon. If he's running like Seed Bomb, Z-Grass. And with Leech Seed up, Wish, Leftovers, I'll be getting all that health back anyways. So, really like Leech Seed this game to spread around his team. He might bring Sap Sipper Goodra, I'm not certain. It's either going to be that or Gooey. I'm not really sure what he'd want to run versus me, but definitely the Leech Seed pivoting is going to be really nice. Dual Stab's just good coverage for his team. Giga Drain hits things like Rhyperior, the Lycanroc, of course, and also, like I mentioned, the Tapu Fini. So, yeah, Roserade's just kind of my best initial pivot, I think, to the Tapu Fini. If he does show Calm Mind, I am going to expect him to have Ice Beam, so that might be a little bit difficult to play around, but I should be able to live a +1 Ice Beam from full. HP Flying is there instead of HP Fire because I'm not really planning to leave this thing on Celesteela anyways, and knowing Dave, he could run Weakness Policy Celesteela, which HP Fire will not be knocking out by any stretch of the imagination. So I felt like I would rather have HP Flying on this set. That means it's one less thing that Heracross can force out on my team. HP Flying should knock out max HP Heracross from full if I did that calc right. So yeah, I think HP Flying was just kind of the better option here instead of HP Fire. I am running max speed, max special attack, just so I can speed tie with the Zangoose. Yeah. Next up here is Choice Band Victini. These up here running U-Turn, Bolt Strike, V-Create, and Zen Headbutt. Max attack, max speed. Jolly Nature, a pretty standard Victini set with the Choice Band. He does have some base 100 speed Pokemon on his team, so I felt like I kind of had to run it, mostly for the Shaman there. Maybe I could have gotten away with a little bit less, but it really didn't give me a whole lot to not be forcing that speed tie, so Choice Band of Victini is just very difficult for him to switch in on. Like I mentioned, I think he'd probably bring the Lycanroc over the Rhyperior. Choice Band V-Create's going to do a ton of damage to that thing. It's even going to be doing a ton of damage to things like Goodra on the switch in. He's got to worry about Choice Band Bolt Strike coming in with the Tapu Fini. I think that does something like 86% min to standard Tapu Fini, which is max HP, no Phys-Def investment. It's also going to be putting chunks in on things like the Rotom Heat as well. And obviously I'm able to pressure out the Celesteela with this, as well as the Mega Heracross and the Shaman. So Choice Band Victini should be able to put in the hurt on his team pretty decently, especially if I get Stealth Rocks up to start chipping down something like the Rotom Heat switching in. Choice Band Victini can definitely put in some pretty good damage on his team. I just need to make sure I'm getting it in the right situations, getting it in on things like Heracross, not Harden on Heracross, of course, things like Celesteela, and just firing off Choice Band V-Create. He doesn't have great switch-ins for it, even though he does have a lot of fire resists. Like Goodra, for example, doesn't have the best physical defense stat in the world. So hoping Choice Band Victini can do a lot through in breaking through his team. Next up here we got Ron Swanson, the Mega Aggron, running Heavy Slam, Thunder Punch, Toxic, and Stealth Rock, max HP, max attack, Adamant. I really like the physical damage output that Aggron gives me. If he's running offensive Celesteela, Thunder Punch will be a guaranteed 2-hit KO on that thing. Obviously I do have to worry a little bit about him running Weakness Policy, so I don't necessarily just want to let it rip. I do have some pretty decent switch-ins to the Celesteela on the team anyways, but definitely don't want to be just letting Thunder Punches rip if he's at full health. Don't want to risk him being like an autotomized Weakness Policy type set and just sweeping through my team. So definitely something I need to watch out for. Max Attack, Adamant, Heavy Slams, putting in a huge number on his team. Things like Tapu Fini even really do not appreciate taking that Heavy Slam. Toxic is there specifically to hit the Rotom Heat upon switch in, because it does have Levitate. It's not going to be immune to my status when the terrain is up. So getting a Toxic off on that thing would be really nice. And Stealth Rock is just very important for chipping down, specifically the Rotom Heat, to prevent that thing from switching in over the course of the match and chipping down my team. Last up here, we got kind of a janky set. Like I mentioned in my game versus Glumac, regular season is the time to try out sets that you're pretty sure that you're pretty sure will not work, but may work. And this is one of them. We're running Cake Pop the Slurpuff. This is actually its first game of the season, and it's coming in with a real weird set. We're running Leftover Slurpuff with Cotton Guard, Draining Kiss, Thunderbolt, and Calm Mind. Max HP, max Phys-Def, +6 Slurpuff is taking something like 22% for max attack adamant heavy slam from a Celesteela. And between leftovers and draining kiss, I can potentially get that thing low enough to the range where it's going to be knocked out by a Thunderbolt. Depends how he plays around it. If he goes hard Celesteela every time I've got the Slurpuff out, that might be a little bit of a problem. But if rocks are up, I'm chipping that thing down over the course of the match. I'm forcing it to go for heavy slams or leech seeds or things like that, which I could potentially take advantage of. And if he's not really playing around it very well, like if he thinks he can potentially wall it with Rotom Heat, goes after Rotom Heat first as I go for Cotton Guard. I can Calm Mind on that thing, start getting some Thunderbolts off when his Celesteela comes in, things like that. Draining Kiss helps with a little bit of longevity for the Slurpuff, and this is actually a pretty decent physically defensive switch into his Mega Heracross. Obviously it resists both of its dual stabs, and I don't believe I'm 2-hit KO'd by Rock Blast, so Slurpuff just kind of a weird set to bring to this game, but I felt like I could definitely put in some work if he's not prepared for it, if he plays around it kind of poorly. But definitely not something that I feel like is super critical to the team, so I might end up, if I need a sack later in the game, the Slurpuff might end up being the one there. So yeah, let's get right into the matchup here. As you can see, Dave brought the Celesteela, Mega Heracross, Goodra, Tapu Fini, Lycanroc Dusk, and the Rotom Heat. So looking at lead matchup, I already mentioned I have Focus Sash lead Tornadus. That's my lead. No question. Like, I don't care what he leads off with. It's just kind of my best option. Denies the Mega Heracross from firing off a bunch of strong hits versus me. I can knock off the Celesteela to remove leftovers or whatever item it's carrying. Knock off Goodra, knock off Tapu Fini, U-turn on the Lycanroc, and knock off the Rotom Heat and just not care. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to lead off with the Tornadus here, as he does lead with the Rotom Heat. Like I mentioned, my team's really not designed to deal with Rotom Heat very well. There's not a whole lot my team can do to Rotom Heat in general. So gonna knock off a Wiki Berry from the Rotom Heat turn 1 here. That's really nice for me to limit the longevity of this Rotom. If he's not carrying Pain Sweat, any damage I get on it from here on out is going to be permanent, so not too concerned that I'm just going to Volt Switch out. I'm going to take a little bit of damage off on my Tornadus, but not too big of a deal here. Don't want to risk him going for an Accel Rock here, so I'm just going to go right out into my Vaporeon, start to pressure his team with Scald a little bit, see what he wants to do. Presumably he's going to go into Tapu Fini here, but I don't really want to make that call out just yet. He might be like a Focus Sash, Endeavor type Stealth Rock, Lycanroc, so I don't want to risk just going out to Roserade there and just losing all my momentum. I'm just going to go for Scald, get a crit on the Tapu Fini, but still obviously not going to do very much. But it does reveal that he's not carrying leftovers on this Tapu Fini, so that's definitely good to know. He does taunt me here as I go for the Wish, so good prep on his end to bring the taunt. I'm not really sure if this is still going to be Calm Mind, but it could definitely be taunt Calm Mind like I mentioned in my team builder. Here, I'm just going to switch out. I don't want him to start setting up Calm Minds in my face as he does go out into the Celesteela, catching my Roserade upon switch in, which is unfortunate for me since I really can't touch the Celesteela. I'm just going to go right back into my Vaporeon. Like I mentioned, Celesteela really shouldn't be doing anything to me anyways, and since I know that Tapu Fini is not leftovers, I can just start spamming Scald pretty freely at his team if I want to. He's going to go right for the Heavy Slam here. Actually does a really good chunk of damage. That leads me to believe that this is max attack Celesteela, so definitely concerned about a potential weakness policy Autotomize type set or a Z type set with Autotomize. Definitely have to watch out for that with my Vaporeon here. I'm just going to go right for Wish and see what he wants to do. I don't have a whole lot of problem here staying in necessarily on the Goodra, but there's not a lot I can do to touch it since I'm not carrying Toxic. So as I do go for Wish here, instead of keeping my Vaporeon in to catch it, because I don't think that's really going to get me anywhere in the long run, I'm just going to go out into my Mega Aggron, predicting a potential Dragon-type move or an Electric-type move. Aggron kind of covers both of those with the Wish up in the air as he calls that out and goes into his Rotom Heat. So he's making some good plays here in the beginning of the game. He's really got me on the back foot. Stealth Rocks are up, and I'm really not finding a lot of purchase here. So what I have to do is make a play here, predicting that he's not going to go for a Fire-type move or like a Will-O-Wisp or anything like that. I'm just going to go right for my Stealth Rocks to start punishing all the switches he's doing. Especially this Rotom Heat coming in. If I can limit that thing's switch-ins over the course of the game, that's going to be great for me. The Celesteela comes out, and I could definitely stay in here and go for a Thunder Punch. It should do over half since I know he's offensive. However, like I mentioned, I don't want to proc a potential weakness policy if he's going for Autotomize here, which is unfortunate for me because I'm going to swap out into my Vaporeon here as he gets in the Tapu Fini. So had I Thunder Punch there, very different looking type of game, I think. But unfortunately, the Tapu Fini is able to come in here on my Vaporeon. I kind of have to go for Wish here. unfortunately, with the Tapu Fini. And like I mentioned, no leftovers on the Tapu Fini is good. It is guaranteed in range of Choice Band Bolt Strike from my Victini here, but he does reveal to be Calm Mind on it. So I'm going to go for the Wish here. I'm a little concerned that he might just go for Taunt at this point. In retrospect, I probably should have just clicked Haze. I really didn't lose a whole lot by clicking Haze in this instance, but unfortunately, I'm going to go out into my Aggron here. Like I mentioned, I don't think he's carrying water coverage since he is Taunt Calm Mind. I think he'd be Ice Beam Moonblast, hit my Roserade, and hit the rest of my team basically with Moonblast. So I don't think he'd be carrying a water type move as I go into my Mega Aggron here, catch that Wish, and he shouldn't be able to knock me out unless he's carrying Hydro Pump or something like that. So I'm just going to go for Heavy Slam and do some big damage to him. He clicks Moonblast and does some big damage to me, unfortunately. It turns out this was actually Hydro Pump Tapu Fini. In fact, it was actually Z Hydro Pump Tapu Fini, and unfortunately for him, or for me I guess, he didn't click it there because that would have been a guaranteed win because Tapu Fini is not one of his listed Z users. But he doesn't click the Z there. I have to go out into my Roserade here because I don't want to sack off my Aggron yet. It's too important for the Lycanroc and for the Goodra in the back there, so I'm going to keep it alive. Roserade's not as important, and because this Tapu Fini's dead to Stealth Rocks, I'm not super certain that he'd save it, but if he is a physical variant of Goodra and he's got Sap Sipper or something, I don't want to be proccing that upon switching, so I'm just going to go for Sledge Bomb. Like I mentioned, Roserade's not super important anyways, just knocking out the Tapu Fini there is fine with me. And I'm perfectly content to sack off my Roserade to whatever he brings in. I'm hoping he goes into Heracross, but unfortunately he does go into the Lycanroc. Just to click a Cellurock, presumably it's guaranteed to hit, and it will knock out my Roserade. But I couldn't risk him going for like a Drill Run there, predicting my Aggron and hitting that thing with a Drill Run. So unfortunately I have to sack off my Roserade there. It's not going to be able to come in later and pressure things like the Heracross, get off the Sledge Bomb on the Rotom Heat. Kind of unfortunate, but you know, what can you do? Aggron comes out here, just going to go for a Heavy Slam. No reason for me to over-predict here. I don't want to, again, risk proccing a weakness policy on this Celesteela, so obviously Heavy Slam's not really doing anything to it, and he's still just out of range of my Thunder Punch. I believe Thunder Punch does something like 60% to the Celesteela, so another switch in on Rocks plus Heavy Slam should get him in range. But I'm just going to go into my Vaporeon here as Dave makes a very nice play and goes for the Seed Bomb. What this is going to do is force me to go for another Protect, unfortunately. No, so he's going to get a free switch into pretty much whatever he wants. In this instance, he thankfully chooses to go into the Rotom instead of into the Heracross. Heracross would have been a huge problem with a switch in there. We would have had to play some games with like Rock Blast versus Close Combat there with my Tornadus, and definitely not a good look for me if he went Heracross there. But thankfully he just goes into the Rotom Heat, which means I'm going to be able to protect once again to make sure I'm out of range of a Volt Switch. This is guaranteed, I think, max HP, max defense Rotom Heat based on the knockoff damage, if I'm not mistaken, which means I should be out of Volt Switch range at this point. I can just go for a Wish with my Vaporeon here. Maybe not the best play, but it's not like I have a great Volt Switch in the first place anyway, especially with Rocks up, because my Victini's going to get chipped down. So I just kind of got to go for the Wish here, try and get my Vaporeon up to a decent amount of health, and find out what this Heracross wants to do. So Heracross should definitely be carrying a fighting type move. It should probably be carrying Knockoff to make sure it can hit my Rotom. And then after that, maybe, I'm thinking like Pin Missile plus Rock Blast makes sense. So I don't think he'd be carrying Swords Dance on this set. So I'm not too concerned about just going for Protect here after going for the Wish. See what he wants to do with his Heracross here, as he does show the Knockoff. So because he's shown Knockoff, I'm pretty certain that this thing does not have Swords Dance, because I think he probably would have gone for it there, if anything. So Vaporeon getting up to a decent amount of health here, catching that Wish. I'm going to scout out a little bit what he wants to do, as he does predict me to switch out and goes for the Rock Blast here. See, that's still doing a very healthy chunk of damage to this max Fizz Def Vaporeon, still doing almost 50%. So I am slightly coming out ahead with Wish plus Leftovers plus Protect, but it's really not a super winning battle for me, so I got to figure out what I'm going to do against this Heracross. In this instance, I do have to Protect, of course, to catch that Wish, as he's just going to rip off another Rock Blast, I believe. Yep, goes for another Rock Blast here, just denying me from getting in my Tornadus. I probably could have gone Slurpuff there, now that I think about it. It might have been the better play, but then my Vaporeon would have been essentially useless for the rest of the game, so kind of a different trade-off there. I think in this instance, I was thinking my Vaporeon is more useful to me than my Slurpuff is, so why get in Slurpuff when I can just heal up my Vaporeon? But in retrospect, I probably should have gone Slurpuff first to catch that Wish, because it would have come in on the Rock Blast, been able to eat it up after the Wish, and then start to Cotton Guard in his face, or potentially Calm Mind. but I don't necessarily think I'm faster than that Celesteela at this point since I know it's offensive. So probably would have gone for a Cotton Guard there. Maybe been able to chip down the Celesteela a little bit for my Aggron. But now we're just playing some Wish Protection shenanigans with this Heracross. Really not a winning battle for me at this point. I'm going to switch out into Slurpuff. Like I mentioned in my team builder, Slurpuff is kind of the sack, I think, which may have been a misplay, I think, on my end. It turns out I think my wing com was probably this Slurpuff, and getting his leftovers knocked off is actually really, really bad. So I'm not going to go for Cotton Guard here because my leftovers are gone. I'm just going to go for the Draining Kiss, see if he wants to leave in his Heracross and take a bunch of damage for no reason. Unfortunately, he does go out into the Celesteela as I go for Draining Kiss. Like I mentioned, that does guarantee put it in range of Thunder Punch if he is offensive, like I think he is. But I got to switch out here. I can't let him be getting Beast Boosts for free on me, especially if he's an Autotomized Z-move type set. So don't want to give him the free Beast Boost. Just going to go out into my Vaporeon here. I don't think he'd Seed Bomb. I think if anything, you would either Earthquake as he did there, or go for a Heavy Slam. So Vaporeon was a fine switch there. I can Wish Up once again, get my Vaporeon back to full if I so choose, or get my Aggron back to full depending on what he goes into. In this instance, he goes into his Goodra, which should be a free Aggron for me no matter what. I did take a bunch of damage off on my Aggron earlier, and I've been looking for an opportunity to heal it up, and this seems like a pretty good time to me because the Vaporeon's still healthy enough to come in on a hit from Celesteela as long as he's not going for Seed Bomb. Getting some health back on my Aggron is going to be very important here to help deal with the Lycanroc. So he goes for Thunderbolt with his Goodra here. He did reveal leftovers on Goodra that previous turn, and it looks like he's not particularly invested with that Thunderbolt. So I'm just going to throw off a Toxic here. It either catches the Rotom Heat coming in, catches this Goodra staying in, or he's going to go into the Celesteela, which is going to die to a Thunder Punch. So Toxic, I think, was just my best overall play here, and getting that Goodra on a timer is going to be really, really nice for me since I don't have the best ways to break through it. I'm not running like a particularly offensive Tornadus or anything, and I really didn't bring a whole lot to break through Goodra, honestly, looking at my team. So I'm just going to go out into Slurpuff here. Again, it's kind of the designated sack at this point in the game, so not too concerned about what he wants to do. He goes for Thunderbolt here. This Goodra's starting to get chipped down, which is good for my Victini in the back, clicking Choice Band V-Create, Choice Band Zen Headbutt, whatever. That Celesteela is actually getting pretty low to the point where clicking Choice Band Zen Headbutt's actually looking pretty good versus team. So Celesteela comes out. I just go for Draining Kiss again, thinking Goodra should eat this hit anyways if he wants to stay in and knock me out. So go for Draining Kiss. Getting some more chip off on the Celesteela is fine by me. Here I think he might predict me and go for something that's not a Heavy Slam, so I'm just going to click Thunderbolt. But he does go right for the Heavy Slam and gets the attack raise. So I do know that this is offensive Celesteela, as I mentioned from the calcs, and that's confirmed by the attack boost. Kind of have to go out into Victini here just to deny him any kind of setup or to get anything rolling, boost my Vaporeon or anything like that. As it turns out, he's Choice Scarf Celesteela, so definitely not something I was expecting. It's unfortunately going to do a big chunk of damage to my Victini here at +1. I am able to knock it out with a V-Create, of course, but now I can pretty much go into anything to revenge kill me. His best option seems to be the Lycanroc because he doesn't know if I'm Choice Scarf Victini at this point, and I believe Rotom might die to Choice Scarf V-Create from this range. So kind of has to go out into the Lycanroc to revenge kill me, but we're in another situation where he could just Drill Run to knock me out. So I can't go hard into my Aggron here. I'm going to have to let him knock out my Victini, unfortunately, which is going to make it a little bit of a problem against the Goodra and the Heracross. Like, look at my team and look at Goodra. It's a little bit problematic, but I do have that thing on a timer. I can potentially stall it out with Witch Protect from my Vaporeon. So that's kind of the end game that I've got in mind here, is it's kind of just stalling out this Goodra with Wish Protect on my Vaporeon. As he brings it out here, as I go for Wish versus the Lycanroc. I was pretty sure he wasn't going to stay in there because he needs that Lycanroc to help deal with my Tornadus. So I'm just going to be able to get something back to full here on the Goodra. I'm going to allow my Vaporeon to catch this Wish, see what the Goodra wants to do. I've seen T-Bolt, I've seen Ice Beam. Don't really know what the rest of this set is running. I have seen the leftovers, so I think it's a little bit more defensive. But I'm not sure what other kind of moves he might have on this Goodra. So just going to catch that Wish on my Vaporeon here. And really there's no reason for me to not Wish again because I should be able to get my Aggron back up to full as well. Which is exactly what I'm going to do. Unfortunately, he shows Rest on his Goodra, and this is a huge problem. Like, that's essentially GG at this point in the game. I really can't deal with Rest Goodra, looking at the team that I brought, and even the team that's left for sure. So Rest Goodra, really nice bring from Dave here. Something I definitely was not expecting to see. I was thinking maybe an AV Goodra, or I know he likes to run Z Goodra as well. Thought he might run like Bloom Doom, Z Power Whip to hit my Vaporeon, something like that. But unfortunately, he did show the rest. So even though I'm able to get my Aggron back to full, you're going to see this max attack Heavy Slam is really not doing anything to this Goodra. I think he's physically defensive. and it's not going to be a 3-hit KO, especially after leftovers. So I am going to need to knock off those leftovers to have any chance at winning this game, and then I'm probably going to need to continually toxic this Goodra as it wakes up. So yeah, he's going to go for the Thunderbolt on me here as I go for a Toxic, I believe, this turn. I just really got to keep this Goodra as low as possible and potentially get my Tornadus in to click knockoff. Getting the Toxic off should help me to do that because he has to rest at some point, and I don't think he has Sleep Talk because he didn't go for it there. So I don't know what the last move is that he's carrying, but it's clearly not a Fire type move, or he'd probably be clicking it versus Aggron. So I'm going to go for Heavy Slam here, make sure he's guaranteed to rest this next turn, but unfortunately I get Thunderbolt parried into full parried this turn, so now I'm like not certain whether or not he's actually going to go for rest here. He could actually just go for Thunderbolt and continue to whittle me down, and then go for rest on the following turn or something like that. So now I have to switch out because I can't let my Aggron die. I need it for the Lycanroc. And I'm going to have to go on Vaporeon here instead of my Tornadus because, like I mentioned, I wasn't sure if he was going to rest here. So instead of getting my Tornadus to just click a free knockoff, unfortunately his Goodra is going to get back in control with relatively little cost on his end. So I am going to throw up a Wish here with Vaporeon, try and get something in on this Goodra. Like I mentioned, I don't think he's Sleep Talk, and he does get his first turn of rest off. So getting the Wish up here, I can go into my Tornadus finally and try to knock off this Goodra. He does have the Rotom Sack in the back should he choose to use it, but really my only hope here at this point is to get a knockoff onto this Goodra. So I'm going to go into Tornadus. Like I mentioned, he is still sleeping, and I'm just going to go right for knockoff. No reason for me to overpredict here. I think if I overpredict and go for U-turn, I'd probably lose anyway if he goes for like T-Bolt on switch. So I kind of have to click knockoff here and just hope he lets me take his leftovers. Unfortunately, Dave is not going to let me take his leftovers. He's going to go out into his Rotom Heat, which unfortunately, because I'm not carrying Hurricane, is not going to be 2-hit KO'd by knockoff into Hurricane because he is physically defensive, or into Air Slash. So I'm going to have to Air Slash flinch him here. Unfortunately, I do not get the flinch, and he ends up critting me with the Volt Switch. Like, the game is pretty much lost at this point, but that crit on Volt Switch means that I can't even come in on a close combat from the Heracross, unfortunately, and I can't risk these Lycanroc just going for a Cell Rock on me. So I have to switch out here once again because I need this Tornadus to kill the Heracross. There's just really not a whole lot I can do to advance my game state at this point in the match because of that Rest Goodra just kind of walling everything. So I'm just going to have to go out into my Vaporeon here and hope he chokes by going into Heracross and letting me burn it or something like that. So I'm going to click Scald here as he is just going to sack off the Lycanroc. It turns out this was Metronome Lycanroc, just keeps spamming Stone Edge at me. So does not KO me, but my Vaporeon is essentially useless at this point at that low range of health. I'm going to go for Scald to knock out the Lycanroc and see what he wants to do with this Heracross. Maybe try to protect up a little bit, get some leftovers back. I don't really know, but Heracross is going to come out here. I really don't have an option because, like I mentioned, I'm guaranteed to die to close combat. Can't go out into my Tornadus. Might just go for Rock Blast anyway. I'm going to click Protect to see what he wants to do first, but he does go right for the close combat. So he's showing close combat because it won't, it denies everything on my team from coming in because the Tornadus is in range given the crit from the Volt Switch. I don't think that super matters. He probably would be clicking Rock Blast if the Tornadus was out of range of a close combat, but looks like Vaporeon's going to be the one to go down here, and I have to get out my Tornadus here. He does still have the Rotom Sack right there, unfortunately, but, you know, what can you do? So Tornadus is a little bit lower than I would like it here. It also means that I'm in range of a hit from the Goodra guaranteed, so I'm just going to go for Air Slash here. Hope he leaves in the Heracross. It doesn't super matter at this point because I can't break the Goodra, but he's going to sack off the Rotom Heat. At least brings it down to a 2-0. But like I mentioned, there's really not a whole lot I can do. I don't live a Thunderbolt from this range, so I can't stay in and click Knockoff. So I can't take away his leftovers on this Goodra, and he's just going to be able to wall me out with this thing. So I'm going to U-turn out into my Aggron. It was Gooey on the Goodra, not Sap Sipper, so that's something good to note for the next time we play him. But I'm just U-turning out, seeing if I can get a little bit of regen going, and then I'm just going to have to flinch the world, is basically the plan. So I'm going to go out to Aggron here. He Thunderbolts me, does a good chunk of damage. He will be able to 2-hit KO me with that, of course. And now it's Tornadus versus the world. Time to flinch him, like, I don't know how many times I would need to flinch. I probably need some crits in there because Goodra is super specially bulky just naturally. Like I mentioned, I think he is running Fizz Def on this Goodra, but it should still take these Air Slashes really well. I'm not invested on my Tornadus, and he's got leftovers, so that's pretty much a wrap at this point. My only hope is to air slash clinch him to death, which would require something like all of my air slashes in the first place. So you see I'm doing 19% there. I think I would need to take like... that's a lot of air slash clinches. I didn't even count. But he's able to break through and kill me with an ice beam. So that's a 2-0 in Dave's favor. Very good game to Dave. The rest Boudreaux was a really, really nice bring. Definitely something I was not expecting, especially given that he carries the Misty Terrain aspect with Tapu Fini. Definitely a really cool set. Something I definitely overlooked in prep, and hopefully will not overlook next time. So we're sitting at 6-1 now. Have not yet clinched a playoff spot, but hopefully we can do so moving forward. Like I mentioned, I am a little bit behind on games, but I will try to catch up as soon as possible. Thank you guys for watching another kind of a stolly game from this Wish Pass type team, and hopefully we can get a kind of better outcome the next week. So thank you guys again for watching, and I'll see you guys all in another video. Later.